I've worked in computer consultation for a long time, like building and repairing computers and teaching people how to use them, but lately I've been doing a lot of blogging and I've been doing a lot of, modeling and stuff like that, both in the kind of more mainstream TS world and as well as modeling on my own. But the way it kind of reflects on my life is when you're trans, you kind of have to go out and figure things out on your own sometimes. And so sometimes mainstream jobs aren't the best way to go, and you kind of have to innovate, you have to hustle, you have to make a living for yourself because some doors have been closed off to us. Unfortunately, that was the case when I was younger. Nowadays, it's a lot better because, big time employers like Starbucks and stuff, Abercrombie are really positive towards trans people. But many of us are still kind of a little jaded by the whole mainstream kind of corporate mindset where there's lots of states that they can legally fire us and stuff still, and sometimes the workplace is a hostile environment, so we go out and we model and we go out and we find our own ways. So we have to go and we have to innovate, which is kind of just part of being trans.
I'm an adult entertainer, a transsexual adult entertainer, and before that I was working different jobs. Where I'm from San Francisco, and pretty much I just found my sexuality. I don't think it has anything to do with my gender identity.
My job currently is I'm an adult performer, entertainer. It's definitely one of my passions, not the passion. How does it intertwine? Well, I guess I'm a transsexual entertainer, so that makes me different from other entertainers. It's a small niche. And how to tie in as me being a transgender is I have to have what I have in order to make money, so I have to have a cock.
Well, being trans has brought me a lot of happiness in terms of this sense of enlightenment that I feel like I have as a trans person, and in many ways it feels like you're part of this club of people who really truly understand gender and the fluidity of it and the rich tapestry of the human sexuality. There's so much about being trans that kind of feels like a liberation, especially if you've been identified in a way that you didn't want to be, and then you come out as this identity. It's like, oh my God, I actually can express myself in the way I've always wanted to. It's you're being freed from these shackles of gender oppression, and that makes me super happy. The community makes me super happy. Looking in the mirror makes me super happy. I smile so much more when I look in the mirror because seeing myself as how I would choose to express myself is just this very, very sweet, wonderful part of life, and I couldn't imagine living without being trans.
Well, I've always felt that I was different, and it took a really long time for me to actually find myself. I've lived, a homosexual life. I've lived a straight life, and after all that, that's when I found out that, my gender is different, not my sexual preference.
Being able to be in my own skin and feeling comfortable, being who I am and representing who I am definitely makes me happy. I do not have to fight much discrimination as I would if I had not transitioned. Just being able to live the life that I always envisioned.
It was really hard working with general society and just being judged on a daily basis of who I am based on my gender identity.
Mm-hmm. Being trans does bring a lot of hardship. Employment is always tough. Safety is an issue. Going out with friends, dating is a big issue, especially if you're a passable trans girl. You're going to get picked up by, guys and stuff like that, and there's issues sometimes when you can't flirt back because you've got something in your pants that they're not interested in, but there's all these societal external issues, but really the toughest part of being trans is the internal issues, the insecurity, the feelings of wow, I don't feel attractive and I'm never gonna feel attractive. My body is, the dysphoric aspects of some of the basics of being male, facial hair, body hair, things like that, even your own male smells and stuff like that can really drive you crazy. And so it's the insecurity and the internal issues, which are oftentimes developed by the external issues and people saying, oh, well, you're not a real woman, or you're not this, or you're not that. They can grow and fester inside of you, and without community and without a better understanding of yourself, without therapy for a lot of people, it's really hard to exist. It's really hard to find happiness. It's really hard not to crawl into a hole and be depressed. It's hard to get out of bed sometimes if you feel like the person you're going to be that day is not who you want to be.
I am my own support system. I worked really hard to get to where I am today, and also what initiated got me to transition was a good friend of mine, which we don't talk anymore, but she kind of got me started to transition and kick-started me, and I ended up just feeling myself and drive to get to where I am today, and hopefully one day and represent other girls who do not have that kind of support system to help initiate their transformation, along with living the lifestyle that I want to live.
I would have to say Yasmin Lee. She's my mentor, and she's also a very good friend of mine, and she's given me a lot of support within the industry and also just with life and how I should go about with handling certain situations that I deal with.
Well, I've admired a lot of trans people in my journey. Wendy Summers, a fellow model, has helped me out a lot when I was starting to get into the industry. But really, Kate Bornstein has always been somebody really positive to me, mostly because she really expresses the fact that the sum of your lifetime, the sum of your experiences is the most valuable thing you could possibly have.
It's conformity. People stick with what they're used to, and opposed to a few open-minded people who are open to other aspects of modeling. I feel that people live by and only comprehend through stereotypes.
In terms of trans people in media, we're either the punchline or we're the villain almost exclusively. We're either a man dressed as a woman to make a joke, or we're some sort of serial killer or pervert or something like that. Either that, or we are such a solitary entity that we're being put on a pedestal to a certain extent, like, wow, look at this trans person, look how interesting their lives are.
With any industry, in my opinion, even in the adult film industry, it's really hard to get recognized being a transsexual woman or a trans man.
You very rarely get, if there's ever been a legitimate representation of a trans person in any sort of media, showing them as they actually are, and when I say media, I mean ABC, NBC, Fox and stuff like that. You never see a character actually that is a human being that is trans, that isn't a big trans bubble over them, or that's all there is about them.
It's a matter of just time and trend. It's definitely mostly trend and acceptance until transgender people are able to get mainstream modeling work or stuff like that, or seen in mainstream films.
When I was younger, I was very utilitarian in my dress. I wasn't happy with the clothes. There was no reason to express myself in what I wore because I wasn't going to find anything that interested me. I would wear punk rock t-shirts, I would wear tattered t-shirts.
Living life as a transgender woman definitely had its difficulties, not knowing how to apply makeup. Dressing was difficult, finding the right clothing, styling.
I would say yes and no, because before my style was very different, and I've always had this shell in trying to fit in the gender norm. So, I was very masculine when I was growing up in high school, and then slowly I started becoming more in touch with my femininity, and so that evolved into something that is now. Now I'm everything that's feminine. I totally love.
I did evolve over time by trial and error and associating myself with other transgender women to build a mindset of how to better stylize myself and look and feel. And definitely I came a long way. Thank God for having girlfriends.
I guess back then I didn't have a style. Now I'm developing a style, and I feel as if it's still developing, and it's always going to develop. Well, as much as I'd love to say I'd love to break down the walls of gender, conformity and make it so there's no more men or women anymore, there's actually kind of wonderful things about being a man or a woman and choosing those identities. If I could honestly choose something, it would be food. I wish everybody had access to good food. I wish the hood had fresh fruits and vegetables, not just week old limes. I wish that people were educated about what they're putting into their bodies and how important food is in our growth and in our everyday mental state.
I would love to see America to have rights for transgender women and a role where they are placed to some importance in our society, as other cultures such as in Thailand, where transgender women, I guess, are entertainers. There are a value in the tourism, industry in Thailand that puts them in a place of importance. And for instance, like Native Americans or Samoans, religious, practitioners, I would love to see, I don't know how, since America doesn't really have much culture, but for America to really set some standards for transsexuals, some equality, that will definitely help, transgender people be more accepted in modern day America.
Just no hate, and it's really hard. I know it sounds very cliche, but there's just so much hatred in this world, and I think it's because the way people are taught about, certain types of religion, and certain types of belief that doesn't even necessarily have anything to do with the actual teachings. It's just more on a personal concept that people teach. And, religion is a very, very powerful thing. And, when there's something so powerful, people believe in it so much that people are willing to follow that. And I think that's how hate is spread out.